Hello everyone, ciao ragazze e ragazzi, hola gente. Welcome to our podcast about Formula One in Osservatore Sportivo. This is our third episode and we are very happy that you are listening to us. I am Justina, an FIA accredited Formula One journalist, and my guest, Manena, is a blogger from Mexico and host of a Girl Talks F1 podcast. Kate, who has been a fan of Formula One since 8 years old. She writes posts for the Osservatore Sportivo Instagram, and Giulia, who joins the Osservatore Sportivo this year, and she is involved in a project to create a digital library about Formula One. Hello, girls. I'm so delighted to see you.
You too. Thank you so much for having us once again. Always a pleasure.
So moving up and down, side to side like a roller coaster, I think these lines of the song is perfectly fit the description of the track in Portimao. Beautiful track with different heights, great location. Formula One wasn't in Portugal for a long time. It returned last year, but temporarily. But it was a grand return. And this year, the Algarve circuit got the second chance. Girls, and what song do you associate with this track?
You know what? For me, the track kind of a little bit purple Lamborghini because the track per se is very, about suspense, I feel. But the race, all by myself, the race in general was very boring, but Kimi Raikkonen was all by himself the whole race. So let's give it to that.
So my associations with Portugal are the ups, the downs, also the winds, because especially this race, it was always very windy and the wind depends on many things. And also Portugal associates with some sand, the sea, and etc.
Okay.
I agree with Manena. The race was quite boring. I didn't like it as much as I did with the last one. But
the first two, yeah.
Yeah, it is a really cool track. I love it. And there has been some highlights, especially in the start of the race. So at the end of the day, not the best one, but not the worst as well.
Okay.
Which song would you give it, Giulietta?
I think I go with the one that Justina said, moving up and down. Maybe the Lando version, the one that we heard in the team radio last year. It was
That's cool, really. If I thought if Max could win, we can call it the wind of change, but I don't know.
Yeah. You really thought about this.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, girls, indeed, that's amazing. And the weather was good in Portimao. There was no rain, and the air was well warmed up. The start of the race was held without incident, and Valtteri Bottas, who won the pole position on Saturday, kept his lead in the race. And at the same time, Carlos Sainz passed Sergio Perez and became the fourth. But on the second lap of the race, Kimi Raikkonen fought with Antonio Giovinazzi on the starting straight and lost the front wing. Restart after the safety car. Valtteri Bottas retains his leading position and sets the best lap. But behind him, the tension is heated up because there is a fight going on between Lewis and Max. Max Verstappen passed Hamilton and then vice versa. Verstappen is really challenging Hamilton. I think Lewis feels it and understand how strong Max is. And nowadays, these two drivers are the best drivers in Formula One. One is young and ambitious. The other is very experienced, who himself once challenged the champions of Formula One. There is one interesting opinion from Nico Rosberg, who believes that Lewis started a psychological game with Max. He said that Hamilton and Verstappen are already fighting on and off the track. Yes, indeed. Last year, the car only occasionally allowed Max to compete. But now he's a favorite and the pressure on him has increased and it's no longer possible to make mistakes. And the most interesting thing is that because Max is a favorite, every time Lewis beats him, it will mean that Max did something wrong, and this will increase the pressure on him. And I totally agree with that. And girls, and how do you think, is it really that Lewis Hamilton himself set the role of the favorite on Max? And if so, then in your opinion, why would such an experienced driver who continues to set records?
I have such a strong opinion about everything you just said, and I'm going to try to contain myself because I don't want to get myself into trouble by saying absolutely everything I think. But we used to see this between Nico and Lewis also. There's a reason why they stopped being friends. Now, I'm not saying Lewis is a bad person. I think he's great, but he always preaches about, yoga and being a vegan and peace in life and being centered, but he's a bully too. If he didn't feel that Max Verstappen could beat him, which he knows he can, that's his limitations on Mercedes. To come back to Mercedes, everybody can be his teammate except for Max Verstappen. Why? Because he knows he can beat him fair and square. And now I feel he's starting to, like you said, play this psychological game on Max to bring him down, to, make him weak and self-conscious so that Lewis can have, the leading position over him. That's what I feel. But what he's not understanding is that Max is so aggressive. I don't think anybody can get into his brain. He's also very stubborn. So what Max thinks about himself is the only thing that matters. I don't really think he's going to let Lewis Hamilton get to him. What I do think is that Lewis Hamilton should preach what he sows. I don't really think he should be messing with other people. I do think they are having, what you said, problems backstage too. I mean, everybody says hi to everybody, but you always see them doing faces at each other. So it's the whole Nico Lewis fight all over again, but with Max. That's how I perceive it.
I think I can agree with you. And also at this point, I think Nico Rosberg, he really knows it because he was a teammate of Lewis. He knows it really well.
And they used to be
at
best
the
friends.
point of psychological games. Yes. And then their friendship broke because of this psychological games. And so about this, I think the psychological games are the thing that can be. I don't like it, but it's a tool to win. And so it's not prohibited, so you can lose it. But I don't think it's like a clean game or something like this. So I don't like the thing, but if he uses it and if it helps him, so why not? But yeah, at this point, you are right.
Yeah, I think that psychological pressure is a key factor in any kind of sport. There is some point that in a football match or in a tennis match, there is always the one side that is going down because of the psychological pressures. Yeah. So I think that it is normal that Hamilton is using it because obviously Max is a great competitor. I mean, Max is one of the greatest for me on the grid. At the same time, I think, as Manena said, that Max is really consistent. He doesn't need this pressure because he knows his values and he is confident in himself. And I think that he's quite chill about all these things, as we have seen in the post-interviews in the race. When they told him about the fastest lap that was delayed, he was not shocked. He said, okay, let's move on. There are so many races that we have to do. So I don't think that he feels this pressure because he knows his potential.
Yeah, totally agree.
Yeah, so Max is really strong psychologically, so whatever Lewis will do,
Correct.
Max will still stay as he is.
Yeah.
It is Max Verstappen, come on.
Correct. Yeah. Yes. Super Max. Somebody told me that Mad Max, and I was like, that is great. But he's known as Super Max by the Formula One. And like you said, Jess, Lewis being this kind of bully, that is why what I feel is aiming people towards Max Verstappen. That is why people are starting to like Max more over Lewis Hamilton. I mean, you can see drastically how much the Lewis Hamilton factor dropped this season. Last year, everybody was, yes, Lewis. Now, this season, I feel everybody is aiming towards Max. I mean, I think all of us are Team Max, aren't we?
We are.
Speaking about this race, Lewis Hamilton won this race and Max Verstappen was only second. He set the best time on the last lap, but the judges removed this time. Bottas finished third, and third place is a good place, but it's very sad for him. And I think it's not easy for Valtteri right now. Probably like for Vettel, since it would seem Seb is back. He had a great qualifying and gave a lot of hope to his fans, but in today's race, he was unable unable to earn points yet. But we have another reason to smile. This is Fernando Alonso. The Spanish had a great race, earned points, and his teammate Esteban Ocon is also in the point zone. And in general, Alpine showed very good progress throughout the weekend. Therefore, I think wherever it will still be, and soon we can see the drivers of this team, if not on the podium, then in the top 5 is quite real. So what are your comments on this?
I feel really bad for Valtteri. You know, his deepest wish becoming the 2021 world champion. So far, I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, it's still only the 3rd race. He can still win, but I don't think it's going to happen if he keeps up like this. Anyway, next page. Nothing surprises us by now, coming from Valtteri Bottas, to be honest. But, you know, Alonso had performed really poorly the first 2 races. And, you know, he at least ended up in the point zone, like you mentioned. But what I was really surprised with was that Ocon finished on top of him. So maybe, you know, this whole Fernando Alonso, Esteban Ocon mentoring thing is actually going to work for Esteban, and he can, you know, save his seat for next season, because there was so many rumors that he was going to be replaced by Pierre Gasly, whatever. Who knows, to be honest. So I'm quite in today's race. I think that was probably the most exciting part of the race today, seeing Alpine do better. Yeah.
Yes.
I agree.
So I agree with you and Fernando Alonso and Alpine. And overall, I was very excited to see how Alpine worked in the end, because I never expected anything from this team. And even before the start of the season, I never thought it really has any potential to fight for the positions like this. And then I saw Fernando Alonso going up and up and up, and I was like, come on, what's happening really? And what about Esteban? I think he's young, he has the talent. So I think he will be on the same level with Fernando. We saw this race, and I think we will saw this then also. And so speaking about Aston Martin and Seb, what about qualifying? It was amazing. I was really amazed to see the P10. I was really happy, really surprised, and I had some high expectations for the race. I expected some points, but if you look on the tires, on the compounds they never had any fresh tires except the medium. So I think the mistake they made was the strategy, but they didn't really had choice, because they had only one fresh tire. They had to start on the used soft tires, and then they changed it on the mediums really early, so they didn't have any chance to make a good strategy. So this brought them down. And what about Seb personally? In the end of the race, there was a radio message, so just something like, let's roll by. And he said, like, copy, he let him pass, but in the end, he overtook him back.
Right.
And I was so happy to see this, because that's a pleasing thing.
He finished on top of Lance, so great for him.
Yes. So on top in qualifying, on top in the race, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Talking about Fernando Alonso, I think that he is a 2nd-time world champion for a reason, and the first races were not the best one. I didn't have lots of expectation about Alpine, and this race was the best for them. And we have to consider that Alonso started out of the top 10, and he arrived behind his teammate, but the teammate started 6th, and Alonso was out of the top 10. So I think that he did a really good race. And maybe they are aiming, obviously, to reach the top 5, obviously, because they wanted to fight with the best team of the midfield. And I think that they can achieve that goal, but I don't think that they are the best one in the midfield. We have lots of good team like McLaren. We have
AlphaTauri.
AlphaTauri, yes, AlphaTauri. I had lots of expectation after the free practice, the qualifying, but at the end of the day, in the race, they do not perform as well as on Friday and Saturday, which I do not understand.
Yeah.
But I think that maybe they need
this
time.
track just suited their car.
So yeah, girls, that's really interesting. And as we said before, there were 66 laps in the race. Some laps were rich in overtaking and interesting moments, but some laps were very boring. And therefore, I'd like to hear your personal pre-highlights on the result of the entire race?
Okay. Checo Perez led 1 or 2 laps. Alpine did a good job. And Nikita Mazepin didn't crash.
I like the last one. Okay, that's cool.
Yeah. For me, it's also Daniel Ricciardo because he had a very poor qualifying, but on the race he did it 2 points. Then it's Alpine and Fernando Alonso. And that's all I think.
Yeah.
It was not really right.
Yeah.
I have to go with Lando Norris. I think he did a
Definitely.
really good race because he had medium and he was able to be consistent all the race long. And at the start, he had amazing start, the first one and the second one. Then I'd say Hamilton overtake on Bottas, even though I'm not an Hamilton fan. I think that was a great overtake. And I go with Daniel as well. Yes, he did a great recovery from a
Nice.
16th position.
And what do you think about the last pit stop of Red Bull? It was very fast pit stop.
Very, but that's the thing. Red Bull is known to be the fastest, pit stoppers. Whatever the right
They had
term
so
is,
many
but they're the
awards,
fastest
yes.
team in the pits. Yes.
This week, the Formula One Commission officially approved the holding of sprint races. We discussed
Yay.
that moment. We discussed that moment on the last podcast, and then our opinions were divided, but it was quite similar. It was not quite clear what it would all look like, and now we have a clarification. So, on Friday, after the first free practice session, a qualifying session will be held, which will determine the location of the drivers on the starting grid in the sprint. The result of the sprint, which will take place on Saturday, will determine the placement on the grid on Sunday's race. Drivers who finish in the top 3 in the sprint will receive points, 3 for first place, 2 for second, and 1 for third. The closed park conditions will take effect after qualifying, as in the case with the standard Grand Prix format, and thus it will be impossible to significantly change the setting of the car after Friday's races and not after Saturday, as in the usual stages. So, what do you think about this format, and won't this make the race weekend a bit stressful?
Definitely. I am against sprint races. Doesn't matter how much they clarify them to me. I still don't get the point, So I do think it will be very stressful. And if something bad happens to the car, as you mentioned, it will be very hard for it to recover. And we all know that sometimes more accidents happen during practices than during the actual race. So I really don't have much to say about this, except that I personally am not in favor of sprint races at all.
So overall, as I said before, I think we'll need to see the sprint races and how it all works, and then say if we dislike it or not. And about the level of stress, I mean, the guys who work in the team, it will be very intense for them. It will be very difficult for them. I mean, the mechanics, the engineers, etc., because they will have to do so many things, make so many decisions in such a short time. So the most difficult thing, it would be for them. Yeah.
Yes, I'm not a big fan of this format because obviously it is an extra job, not only for the driver, but for the team as well. For example, if someone crashes during the sprint race, it will be so much, not only money, but time for the team to try to prepare the car for the race on Sunday.
Right.
And I don't find the reason behind this decision. I think that the format that we have now is working. I mean, there are changes this year, so I do not understand why we should create this new format. Obviously, we have to see how it works to say no, but I'm not a fan.
No.
Yeah, I really like the format of the sprint racing in Formula 2, that is the sprint with the starting positions according to the result of the Grand Prix, but with an inverted grid from first to eighth place. And as for Formula 1, on the one hand, it's interesting to look at something new, but on the other, it's not yet clear, so you need to see and then decide. So yeah, agree with you girls. Okay, the Canadian Grand Prix will take place, unfortunately, instead of the race in Montreal from June 11 to 13. The Turkish Grand Prix will be held. The stage will be held on the Istanbul Park circuit. Last year we saw the return of this track, and the race was very rainy. It looked like not Formula One, but like a figure skating. And yeah, but it was very interesting
Yes.
to watch fight in such conditions. And usually when the race is rainy, people's opinions start to diverge, and some believe that there should be more rainy races, others that it's dangerous and dry races are no worse. So which of these opinions do you support, and name the pros and cons of the racing on a wet track and the racing on a dry track?
Well, you know, I'm a fan of rainy races. I do know they are more dangerous. They're also more exciting because you can see the actual talent and ability of the drivers. When it comes to rainy races, the most unexpected driver can win. I mean, they're not predictable. That's why I like it. As in for Canada, I'm really sad they're not doing the Grand Prix there because I really wanted to try to go. But, you know, the Canadian Grand Prix is a bit more simple. Definitely the circuit in Istanbul is much more exciting. It has this whole, you know, Italy Portimao vibes. It's very, you know, like risky and intense. And dry races, I feel, are just safer in a way, but more predictable. You always know Lewis Hamilton is going to win. Rainy races,
Yes.
it could be Nikita Mazepin, you know? You never know who is going to win. So,
Yeah.
Yes, so about the rainy races, I think the only disadvantage is the danger because yes, the safety measures are made better and better, but anyway, rainy races remain really dangerous thing and anything can happen. But on the other hand, it has so many advantages. It is unpredictable. It is really exciting. And the rain is making the cars a lot more equal. So yes, as you said, any driver get the chance to win. And it's always exciting to watch. So I'm a fan of rainy races. If I see the rain in the forecast, I'm like, oh yes, come on. The dry races are more predictable. Hamilton wins, like Hamilton, Bottas, Verstappen, Hamilton, Verstappen, Bottas, Verstappen, Bottas, Hamilton, etc., etc. Yes, that's what dry races are about.
Yeah.
I mean, we have to say that last year was a total mess because of the rain and the asphalt. The asphalt was new, which brings lots of other problematics, but it was fun. I mean, we cannot hide that it was fun. I lost the counts of how many times Bottas spun last year. I mean, it was a throttle. He kept on spinning, so it is fun. I love the rainy races.
Right.
Because we don't know how they are going to end, so...
I mean, we saw veterans on the podium last year in Turkey. We had Checo Perez coming back to the podium after 2 years. Vettel, who everybody said Ferrari is a mess this season, and Vettel was in the podium. I mean, that was an exciting race.
Yes. It was the best race of the year for me, really.
Yeah, because Vettel was in the podium, but... It was not the best race. The best race was Sakir when Checo Perez won. That was the best race.
Also this one, yes.
This one was one of the best races.
But
too. That is
remains
true.
For me.
I remember
it was a great race.
Charles as well in the Turkey when Seb passed him, so it was just
because it didn't take.
I see.
In theory, driving in the rain makes things more complex than ever, and on wet track, the issue of smoothness and maximum concentration is not even discussed. Nevertheless, it is in the rain that certain experience and self-control allows you to get a fate advantage over the less experienced rivals. So the main rule of driving in the rain is to go where we would not even think to move on a dry track. So fast
Right.
and ideal trajectory. And racing in the rain is very unpredictable, as we said before, and the result of the race is always difficult to predict. So it's very interesting and very nice to watch. So yeah, thank you girls for all your answers. I think now it's time for a quiz.
Woo! Ready to lose again.
I hope to win. I
Trust me, I'm
hope
going
to
to
win.
create a-
This time I suggest you plunge into the history of the Portuguese Grand Prix. So are you ready?
Ready.
Dear viewers and listeners, we invite you to test your knowledge with us. So let's get started. Girls see the questions on my computer screen and the answers are given through the screen of their phones. So this is history of the Portuguese Grand Prix. And the first question will be, in which year Portugal hosted a race valid for the World Championship for the first time? 1951, 52, 54, or 58? Okay, so everything is correct. So yeah, the first race, not official one, just the first one was in 1951, but the official one, 58. So everybody, all right, is right. So I am very happy for you girls. And the next,
So happy.
so
I had no idea, to be honest.
but it was right answer, and this is very great. So the second question, who won that race and which car with? So Stirling Moss on Wenwall, Juan Manuel Fangio Mercedes, Froilan Gonzalez Ferrari, and Graham Hill Lotus Climax.
Hi.
Okay, the correct answer was Stirling Moss.
Nobody.
So now would
Great.
reply like this. I didn't know. So next questions. What was the name of the track that hosted the Portuguese Grand Prix between 1984 and 1996? Monsanto Park, Boa Vista, Algarve, or Estoril? Okay, who was right? Estoril. So yeah. So Giulia is on first place now. So great. So Portugal was the last stage on the F1 calendar in 1984. In 1984, one famous driver won his last world championship. Who? Alan Prost, Niki Lauda, Keke Rosberg, or Nelson Piquet? So the
Yay!
yeah, Niki Lauda, it was his last title in that year, and Portugal, it was the last stage. So in 1985, who won his first race in F1 career in Portugal? Nigel Mansell, Stefan Johansson, Ayrton Senna, or Gerhard Berger? So
No.
yeah, it was Ayrton Senna.
This is everything.
I was gonna choose him, but I was like, no.
No, don't worry.
Thanks for
Okay.
taking pictures. This really helps.
So okay, yeah, don't worry. So who is? Oh, Julia, you're on fire! Great. So going like this, everybody.
Actually.
Oh, it's very interesting.
Congrats.
So the next question is 1989's Portuguese Grand Prix was famous for which reason? Prost won his third title, a collision between Mansell and Senna, Nannini won his first race, and Wild Animal crossed the track.
Like, what was it? Sakir? A dog crossed the track?
Okay, who was right?
Woo! Me!
Manena. Okay, yeah, it was very famous accident. It was a collision between Mansell and Senna. If you want to look at this, recommend you to watch it. It was very interesting. And
You know what I thought about it? I feel Senna is like Lewis Hamilton. I feel everybody has like a fight with him. Everybody had a fight with him.
Yeah, it was a big collision. So yeah, it was very nervous actually, but yeah, I recommend you to watch it.
Watch it.
Okay, so Manena, okay, scored some points. So, which race driver stated his retire before 1993's Portugal Grand Prix and won his last title? Nigel Mansell, Ayrton Senna, Alan Prost, or Damon Hill? Okay, Alan.
Yeah,
And
because he won that year.
Right.
So
So that's great, everybody.
I
Okay,
think Alain Prost is one of my favorite Formula One drivers ever.
that's cool. So when
Same,
Estoril hosted
really.
his last Formula One race, and who was the winner? 1993, Michael Schumacher. 1994, Damon Hill. 1995, David Coulthard. And 1996, Jacques Villeneuve. Don't worry, girls. They're right.
Oh my gosh, no, I
Answer
was
is
gonna
Jacques
choose that
Villeneuve.
one.
And this was very tricky question because at the beginning
It
of
was.
our quiz, it was a question about which circuit hosted Grand Prix from 1984 till 1996.
Duh. So none of us paid attention. And I was so close to choosing Jacques Villeneuve, but I was like, no, let's go with Damon Hill.
So now you know. So don't worry. Yeah, it was Jacques Villeneuve. So next question. Where is Portimao's track located? Algarve, near Lisbon, near Cascais, and near Oporto. Correct. So great. And now will be very interesting questions. The last one. Who marked the fastest lap in Portimao's track in last year? Lewis Hamilton, Max Verstappen, Valtteri Bottas, or Sebastian Vettel?
I think nobody remembers.
So it was Valtteri Bottas.
Once again, he marked it
Unfortunately,
this
yes.
year too.
Yeah, last year. This
I
year
was
too?
like, it has to be Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, the best time. Yeah, the best
I
time.
chose Max Verstappen because I'm always gonna choose Max Verstappen.
So yeah, girls, but look, everybody have a lot of points, so this is very great, and it was really wonderful. And thank you, girls, and congratulations to the winner. And the winner is Julia.
Ooh.
Never won at this game as well.
It was so fun as always.
So yeah, this was
Yeah.
really fun. I really enjoyed, girls. So this is very great. So okay, girls, our podcast has come to an end. Thank you for being with us. Stay with Osservatore Sportivo. Bye bye. Ciao.
Ciao.